I'm in the remote sheep station country of New Zealand, and I've got about 20 minutes before the sun hits the horizon, and I've got to build a shelter to survive the night in just the clothes I'm wearing. And I'm basically testing icebreaker clothing, and it's made from merino wool, and merino sheep live in this kind of environment. So it is fantastic for being able to keep you warm enough to survive in this situation. This spectacular sheep station is called Nokomai Station, and it's one of the wool growing stations that icebreaker use. So I'm going to be testing this clothing out tonight, seeing how well it can keep me warm. Just parked the quad, and I'm going to go look up the hill, see if I can find a place to shelter for the night. These plants are like super spiky. Right, we may have found a spot. Oh, spectacular. I'm not going to take the easy option, which would be to head down the hill and find somewhere down in the lower ground. I want to find somewhere up high so I can experience the environment like a merino sheep does. And the difference is, obviously, their wool's growing out of their back. The wool that I'm wearing now has been through some processing, but it's effectively the same material. So the wind's from where the sun is, so it's from the west. So I want somewhere on the east side to shelter. And this is the best option of all of the spots I've checked out. And there is some rain cover under here. It's quite slopey, so it's going to be quite uncomfortable, but then if it does start pouring down rain, at least that really important thing is not going to be as much of an issue. There's some beautiful big flat rocks. Oh, no snakes in New Zealand, which is a bonus. So the first step is to just block off there with rocks, and I'll see how I go from there. I'm going to want at least one rock to stop my bum sliding down the hill, but that's a nice bum-shaped rock. Maybe I should leave that one. This shelter is obviously approved by the sheep because they've been pooping in here, so it's a good shelter. Whew. So I'm sweaty as at the moment, so I'll take a layer off, and that's the good thing about merino, the way icebreaker does their clothes, is they layer up really well, and you don't want to be sweating because it makes you colder, and then you're also wasting moisture. So I want to make a mattress, and this tussock is pretty hard to pull out, so I'm actually going to use my Leatherman, see if I can cut off some nice neat little bales, but I'll go a bit further away because this is still going to slow the wind down in this area, so I'll go get some from down there. Alright, so I'm just getting a big handful, as low down as I can. Whether it's worth tying these up, not sure yet. I want to try and bundle this with another bit as string, so a nice long one. It looks fairly pliable, and hopefully it'll just take a reef knot and stay as a nice little broom like that, and I can just make a mattress out of that. And then I can also use that as the structure to close off the side of the shelter. So this will give me about close to an inch of insulation underneath, which will stop a lot of my body heat just going into the soil. And then I'll build up this wall along here, keep the wind out, and also allow the reflection of heat that comes from my body to bounce back at me. Makes a big difference to warmth. This gap here is too big to bridge with a tussock, so I'm actually going to try building up a stone wall and see how I go. I'm just trying to chock up the holes. There's a few little gaps there, but most of the wind's going to go around the side. But the more little holes I can fill up, the better. I used more rocks than I thought I'd use. So basically, I've only got a short little bit here to fix up, and I'll use more of those brush piles to cover it across. But by the time I do that, it'll probably be proper dark. But this is going to stop plenty of wind and also provide a bit of insulation. So yeah, it's just fairly comfy on the bottom now with the tussock down, and I'll just cover this over in above me with more tussock. There's a bit of cloud cover tonight. That's actually going to be a good thing. It'll keep some of the heat in, and maybe it won't frost, but it has been snowing a few times already this year, and there's been a few frosts. So you can never really tell how it's going to go. The moon is so bright that I can actually see colour and pick out the dark green ones that I use to tie up the bales. This is a really good tussock. Hoping if I have them this way and it rains, the water will beat off to the outside of the rocks. Yeah, cool. I might just try experiment in a couple of different ways. Yeah, let's mostly cover that in. I need to do probably another 3 bouts of gathering and should be done. The fog's rolling in, the moon's covered up, and I can feel dew on my tussock bales already. Alright, I reckon I just need a couple more. It's time to jump in, so I'm going to layer up with mid and outer layers. This is a high pile, this one is Merino loft. Take a beanie on my head because you lose a lot of heat through your head obviously. Pull up the neck from my undergarments, and then I've got this shell, Merino shell, which is windproof and water resistant, and I'll just wrap that up and use that as a bit of a pillow, and if it gets really windy and starts to rain I'll bung it on. Alright, I'm going to bed. Feel nice and warm now. I'm sure later on I'll feel a bit chilly. Well, 2.5 hours have passed and I'm not that cold, although there is a bit of breeze coming through, and I've just put my shell over the top of me to keep that wind down. But the main problem is I just keep slipping down the hill because it's so slippery, the tussocks, and the slope is so steep that I kind of have to use some muscles to keep myself up, otherwise I just keep sliding down the hill. On the plus side, it's not raining. If it was, and I did get wet, one of the great things about Merino is that it still keeps you warm, or relatively warm, when you get wet. And that's how sheep survive when it rains and it's cold. It's just properties of the wool allow you to stay warm when wet. Alright, it's 4 o'clock in the morning now, and I'm starting to get chilly. I'm on the edge of shivering. So I'm going to get up and just burn some energy to warm up. Man, check this out. It's all foggy down in the valley below, above the clouds. So I'm going to go and walk up the hill and warm up. Beautiful night, stars are out, the moon's just setting. Just hiked down to the end of a ridgeline and there's cloud for like 270 degrees all the way around. It's awesome. I'm toasty warm now. I'm just going to stroll up the hill and I'm hoping maybe about an hour's time I'll get the first glow of sunrise coming up, and it's going to be epic if the sunrise just comes across the cloud here. Yeah, rather than being miserable and horrible and freezing, like huddled up on a steep slope, I'd much rather be out here just enjoying a beautiful night under the stars. And even though there's no moon now, I can still see the cloud. There's just enough starlight, it's so bright that I can see so much. The other amazing thing about New Zealand is it's just so underpopulated. Like, we're not even on a national park, and when it was pitch black before and the valley wasn't fogged, there was no lights anywhere. Like, I can see an enormous stretch and there's just not many people. It's great. Alrighty, the sun is going to be up soon, first light, and I've been walking around for the last 3.5 hours really. It's just been too cold to be in the shelter, but I've had a really nice walk along the ridge and it's been a productive time. So I'm looking forward to the sun getting up, getting the rays on me and evaporating the dew off this grass. I'm back down at the shelter and it is absolutely beautiful. So I basically spent the last 3.5 hours just walking up and down a ridgeline trying to stay warm, but it was nice. It was beautiful, cloud in the valley, I could see it, and now it's going to be a beautiful day. And really, I mean, I'm lucky with the weather. It could have been a lot worse. It could have been blowing a gale. So the trick is just when you get cold, don't sit there and freeze, just go do some exercise. And if it had been raining, I could have done sit-ups in the shelter, but I didn't need to. And the shelter's actually pretty good. It's nice and dry in there. There's no dew on the grass. And you can see I'm completely saturated on my legs. But being merino, it still has a fair bit of warmth even when it's wet. So there's no nasty snakes or spiders, but there is nasty weather in New Zealand. And it's nice to know that you can wear full merino outfit like I'm wearing, kind of like the sheep do as well, and survive the night. It wasn't comfortable, but I got through it. And I'm just looking forward to a bloody strong coffee down the bottom of the hill. Thanks heaps to Icebreaker for the awesome clothes and the opportunity to experience the New Zealand landscape in this fairly unusual way. My next trip, I hitchhike to a remote river on the west coast, improvise a raft and float down living off the land for a few days. Check it out. Thanks for watching.